Good afternoon. Welcome to the Legal and Finance Committee meeting. Today is November 16th, 2022. Let's start with a roll call and determination of quorum, please.
Armstrong.
Here.
Roseland. Solomon. Jones.
Here.
And Evans.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Thank you so much. Now is time for the adoption of the agenda. We have a motion to approve by Mr. Jones, second by Mr. Roseland. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to general public comment. This is a time for the members of the public to discuss or express concerns to the council on any issue not on the agenda. Action will not be taken at the meeting on any issue not on the agenda, except by placement on the agenda by unanimous vote of the council members present. We do have one speaker request form. I will defer to our very own Alderman Evans. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Anyhow, I'm showing this little presentation today for the council members. I want them all to see, and any of the public people that are certainly interested. Because I believe it's important that council members know where their money's going. And this is money appears in places that you may not realize. Well, we every year pass about $100,000 in arts contingency funds. That's divided among dozens of groups around the city, acting as seed money to allow greater fundraising and whatnot. Well, one of those groups is the Black Hills Chamber of Music Society. And I think they get $1,500 or $2,000 a year from us. And that goes on to raise other funds and sponsor concerts and allow them to do the communications to bring in performing artists. Well, this Sunday, our own Maya Buchanan, some of you may know her as Prima Abraham, head of the Eye Clinic's daughter. Maya was my former student at Stevens High School. She's gone on to great things after we shipped her off to the Chicago Institute of Arts. She will be coming back from the Curtis Institute of Music and presenting a recital on Sunday at 3 o'clock at the First Congregational Church. Now, Maya has gone on to win countless worldwide competitions on her violin, and she did win the Chicago Symphony Concerto competition 4 years ago. And that's kind of like winning the Heisman Trophy if you're in the arts at all. And I just want to let you know that bringing performances like these back to town is part of where that little pittance of 1/2, 1/10, the 1 millionth, the 1% of our yearly budget goes to sponsor things like this. And so I think it's important that all the council people see where their investment is going. And I'd like to show Maya in performance. Now, she right here is playing in front of the Strad Society the Stradivarius Society in Chicago. And it's funny to watch the faces of some of the people in the background watching this girl from the Sticks in South Dakota play. And she's playing on about a $10 million violin that they've lent her, and a rich billionaire investor has lent her to perform on in her career because she's so valuable. So I'd like you to watch this little ditty before I finish up. Thank you. That's the kind of stuff Maya will be playing on Sunday. She's bringing her accompanist from Curtis Institute of Music, which is one of the top 5 conservatories in the world, and to play for her hometown. And she's really excited to do it. In fact, she's donating her entire performance fee to pay for student tickets so they can attend the concert. So some of you people hopefully will also attend the concert at 3 o'clock at the Congregational Church. But you can go anywhere from here. And I think back to that South Dakota State ad they used to have on TV featuring Adam Vinatieri, when he said you can go anywhere from here, and he did. You know, he kicked like 5 Super Bowl most important kicks and won those games. Interestingly, he used to play the cello at Wilson School in 4th and 5th grade. So our kids are amazing. Come and support this one on Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. That was lovely. I propose we start every meeting going forward with classical music. All right. All right, going to move along. Human Resources, number 2, Director Strout. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What we're here to do is to ask for an extension to the deadline for our non-union wage study, of which is being conducted. I tried to fit, we have 3 reasons for this ask. I tried to fit it in the little box there, but I will actually send you the email I sent our employees. But there's 3 reasons we're asking for this extension. One is we delayed our start because we had to come back to the City Council, and based on when I could get on a legal and finance agenda and a City Council agenda, we started about 3 weeks behind. The most important reason we're asking for this extension is when we did our survey, we allotted 2 weeks for the other municipalities to respond. At that time, we did not have enough respondents to conduct a wage study, so we did a 2-week extension, and my team and members of the non-union wage study committee really called these people personally. We emailed them personally, and we begged, borrowed, and just begged them to respond, because without their response, we wouldn't have a rounded wage study. And so that 2-week extension was very valuable in that we got the most respondents that Gallagher has had in this calendar year. So that was a really, that was an important extension that we did. And then the last reason is just the holidays. We are going to get with the director team. We're going to get with leadership team. We're going to have the consultants fly back out here, make a presentation to this body based on our their recommendations and our thoughts as leaders. And so trying to schedule that right before the holidays, I don't think is wise. So we're asking for an extension to January 31st. I do not believe we're going to need that amount of time, but that would just do this so we don't have to come back here and ask for a second extension. So that's what the item is.
Wonderful. Mr. Solomon has some comments or questions.
Thank you, Chair. Excuse me. I think it's best for us to work on good data. And if it means getting an extension for another month, I'm all for that, so long as we get the right data, because this data is so important that if we get it wrong by rushing anything, that will set a course we don't want to go down the rest of the way, I suppose. So
Couldn't agree more.
I support extending
Thank
it,
you.
whatever reasonable amount of time that you need. I think that would be fine with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Solomon. Mr. Jones, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman. I agree with Councilman Jason. This committee, others, and the full council have made reference to that study numerous times, and we are basing some current and future decisions on that information. So it's got to be right. It's got to be done correctly. We can't sit here a year from now and say, oh, we missed something, we need to do another study. We've studied this thing and studied, so it needs to be right, on. So I would agree that waiting a month or so, if it's going to help it be better, is a wise choice. Thank you.
And if I may, I sent this email out, I was a little nervous at people's reaction. The only feedback I got was the same as both of you echoed, that, hey, I'd rather take a month or 6 weeks and get this done right, rather than rush it and not be happy with the results. So even our employees are being reasonable and understanding the need for this, so thank you.
Madam Chair, if I still have the floor, thank you. Are we going to incur any more cost by delaying it a month or so?
Nope, and I apologize, it's a no-cost extension. And so Carla from the city attorney's office had me write that in there as well. So same cost.
Very good, thank you.
Moving along to information technology, number 3, Director Gilbert.
This is just the same contract we had last year, or same service we had last year from KnowBe4. We're extending it again this year. We'll do some more training. We'll do phishing response and some other security tests with it. The amount is just over the 25,000, so it's just here as a formality to let you guys know, and it's covered under the IT exemption in terms of bid.
Thank you, Director Gilbert. Moving on to the police, backtrack to Mr. Solomon.
Thank you. Just a quick question, Director Gilbert, if
Go
I
for
may.
it.
Has the phishing program been effective? Have we seen a decrease in
Well, we don't control.
employees?
Yeah, we don't control how many phishing emails we get, obviously. We are seeing a marked increase in the amount of reports that IT sees on emails that are either attempted phishing or somewhat questionable spam emails.
So we all had to do the training. Have we seen a decrease in the amount of people clicking on things they shouldn't be?
Well, we are currently investigating that. It's hard to know that, but we have not seen any indications that from our anti-malware or anything like that we're seeing any real increase. So that's what we hope for, is to decrease to the point where we don't see it in our detection software. So,
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item number 4 under Police Department. Chief Hedrick, you have the floor.
Thank you. If it's okay with you, Madam Chair, I do have an employee and support from the City Attorney's Office to talk about this a little bit. Jenny Clabo is our Technology and Records Manager, and Jennifer Utter from the City Attorney's Office both worked on this agreement quite a bit. Before Jenny gets going, I'd just add that this agreement is a big one for us, and it's important because it covers not only our tasers, but it covers our body-worn cameras and our in-car camera systems. And you know, we've utilized tasers for a long time, and we found them to be a very effective, less lethal option for our officers when dealing with somebody that's combative. Without that tool, we're left with trying to figure out how to wrestle somebody to the ground, and that's when people get hurt. And, you know, when we decided to go with the body-worn camera program back in 2017, we committed to doing it right and to going with the best product available. And Axon was that, and we believe it still is today. And I believe our in-car camera system and our body-worn camera system have done really good things for our police department, to include more transparency. People act differently when they know they're being videoed. And for example, we've been able to clear up many complaints by just saying that we have body-worn camera available. And when folks learn that, at times the complaint just disappears. So it's good for accountability for us, it's good for accountability for the people that we deal with, and it's good for transparency, I believe. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to turn it over to the Jennies.
Ms. Clabo, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks. So I have been with the police department since 2016, and my first job here was to start researching body cameras. So we went into in-depth research then, where we tested out 3 different companies. Axon by far came up on top. The other 2 we actually ended up stopping in the middle of our trial because it was putting our officers in danger, and it was missing some pretty important stuff. So what we're here today is we have a bunch of different contracts now with Axon in the last 5 years. We started with body cameras. Well, we started with tasers way down the line, but they weren't combined at that point. And so I would like to start a full contract of all of our stuff. It's all on one, all of our Axon products on one, which, like Chief said, does include our body cameras, our car cameras, our tasers, and we also, under that, run a drone program in addition with the Sheriff's Office.
Ms. Sutter, do you care to add anything to the discussion? Thank you, Chief Hedrick.
Thank you, Jennifer Utter from the City Attorney's Office. I would just let the council know that we did look at all of the details, and in terms of the legalities of it, we are in compliance with all of our rules that we generally follow with our contracts. They've been very good to work with, even in the negotiation of some of the details. And I have just relied on Jenny Clabo for the details of the products themselves. And that seems to be in order as well. Thank you.
Appreciate the collaboration. Mr. Jones, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. This looks like it's a 10-year contract, 10-year purchase.
Correct.
Technology changes, of course, daily, weekly, monthly. Will this 10-year purchase allow for updates as it goes through?
Yes, so this it includes refreshes of almost all the software. So for our body camera program, we get 5 refreshes over the next 10 years. We would get 2 TASER refreshes, which is standard. Those are usually every 5 years. And then we would get 3 in-car cameras refreshes, which is standard for what we would normally do.
I'd like to compliment the police department and the Jennies, if we're going to adopt that term, on preparing this and having all the I's dotted and T's crossed. Thank you very much. It looks great. Appreciate your effort. I know this stuff isn't easy, so thank you. Good work.
Thank you.
I support this 100%.
Thank you so very much. Okay, moving along, under Finance Department, we will defer to our interim Finance Director, Davis, for items 5 through 10, please.
All right, item 5 is some more volunteers for work comp purposes. Item 6 is our August sales tax report. It is currently up 7.6% over the same period from last year. Item 7 is, a few months ago, you will remember that you approved discarding some computers. IT has some additional ones that are ready to go as well. There are also 2 vehicles from the police department that were damaged in accidents that are being surplused. The item 8 is for the general fund sales tax for September. We're looking at undesignated cash at the end of September at $6.4 million. We will receive a significant payment from the county in November, so that number should go back up a little bit. Item 9, you should have all received an updated copy on your place today. We've had some people actually paying their assessments, so we were removing them from the assessment roll. And then item 10 is the resolution for updating certain fees by the city that'll be effective on January 1st. This includes updating some fees for parking, ambulance services, and parks and recreation.
Great. Okay, Mr. Jones?
Thank you very much. So it's always nice to hear that our sales tax collection is up, and that's kind of an exciting thing. It means maybe we're doing more business, maybe more people are coming. But we also need to be aware of inflation and the percentage that has been, and this says it's up 7.6%, which is same or similar as the number that's been tossed around in the media and other places about what the inflation rate has been. So although it's nice when we collect more money, it's costing the city more money to do business. So it seems like this is maybe close to a wash as far as what's coming in and what's going out. So we just don't want people to think the city has all this extra money now, surplus, and gee, Wally, what are they going to do with it? It looks like we're barely breaking even rather than there being more money coming in. Just an important thought to keep in mind. Thank you.
And Mr. Solomon, you have the floor.
Thank you, and appreciate Dr. Jones saying that. I always say that when almost every time we see these incredible income percentages, and you're like, that'd be great, but everything else costs more as well. But I actually want to direct my attention to number 10. And when we see these, I said this last time we did fees, we have parking, and I believe the fire department, as well as Parks and Recreation, that one of the things I'd like to see included on here are the justifications for the fees. And really, the most significant ones were from the Parks and Recreation Department. So, Madam Chair, if I may direct a question to Director Beegler.
Go ahead.
Director Beegler, so you have quite a few increases across the board. Can you talk to me a little bit about what's behind those increases and the justification from your team?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. We review our fees every year, and we try to make them in line with not only what other locales are charging for similar services, but also we have a goal for our services and in terms of cost recovery, making sure that we've got revenue coming in that at least partially offsets our costs. And the national standards for rates of return are 50% for recreation programs and for aquatic programs, 60% on ice ice programs, and the national recommended rate of return on golf is 90%. Now we know that our golf courses are enterprise funds, and so we make that 100% recovery for golf items. So you will see that most of our fees have been increased anywhere from 5 to 10 and maybe just a little bit above that. That's because our expenses have gone up as well. And not only our expenses this year, but our projected expenses for next year have gone up. So we have adjusted our fees to be able to stay within that rate of recovery that we try to hit every year.
Do any of these fee increases, I mean, some of them are pretty significant. Are they going to be preventative of folks using our facility, especially folks who may not always have the funds to do so?
We look at that every year as well, and there have been years where we have not increased some of those fees. Our daily rates at the swim center and the ice arena have gone from $6 to $7, but they've been in that $5 to $6 range for a number of years, and that'd be about the only one that I would see that might be a barrier to people using our facilities on a daily basis. Most of our annual passes have been increased around the 10% level, and we feel justified in that. We've looked at the other golf courses around the area, for instance, and our fees are right in the middle of the pack of all the other courses within the area and within the general region. So we don't feel that those have increased beyond the point of where it's going to hurt our attendance or our use of the facilities.
I mean, what's true is to use our parks and recreation facilities, either the fee has to pay for it or the general fund has to pay for it, or some combination of both.
Correct.
Right. So, you know, finding that balance I know can be challenging, but there are so many things on there. It was like all red, all the changes in the document. So, to be fair, may I direct your question to Director Fisher?
Absolutely.
Director Fisher, maybe you're the right person, maybe not, but on parking, we see a couple of changes in there. Do you want to talk about the justification on those?
So when you adopted the fee schedule the last go-around, there was consideration of what should get raised and what shouldn't get raised. And the previous finance director had preliminarily indicated that let's raise everything by the percentage rate that when we adopted our parking regs to begin with, it has a caveat in there that each year there will be an annual increase to cover the expenditures of employing staff, equipment, fuel, etc. So that is a guarantee. Every year you are going to see a slight bump in parking fees, and that was previously approved by you when you adopted the last fee schedule.
Does any of this fee increase go to help offset the cost of the parking ramp or any of the reserves for future parking?
Madam Chair. Yes, so this is an enterprise fund, and so that money goes right back into the parking enterprise fund, and every penny of that will be used to improve parking, including the parking structure renovation project that will take us several years to pay back, but with the help of the finance department, we've created a loan schedule so that we can do so, still have funds in the account to look at a parking study in '23 and to improve and continue forward with meeting parking needs throughout our downtown area.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. No one else in the queue. We'll move on under Community Development back to Director Fisher for 11 and 12, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kip Harrington and Michelle Schulke are both here today. Kip will be speaking to item number 11, and Michelle's going to follow up with item 12. We'll stand for questions.
Mr. Harrington, welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Kip Harrington, Long Range Planning. Before you today is our 2023 Unified Planning Work Program final report. The Unified Planning Work Program is a required document as part of our Metropolitan Planning Organization, and it lays out all our activities for the upcoming calendar year, as well as the associated funding. Some big changes between previous ones. We have a host of additional items that we have to consider that came out of the bipartisan infrastructure law that was recently passed. So those are all incorporated into the Unified Planning Work Program, including 2.5% of our budget being spent on complete streets. So we have a separate funding category in our vouchering system and our tracking system to account for that. Also lays out all the staff work activities for the upcoming year, as well as some special studies that we're undertaking, including an update to Rapid City's comprehensive plan, which was last completed in 2014. Transportation planning will pay for a portion of that, which relates to transportation planning. The rest will come out of the community development budget. We're also working with Pennington County and Box Elder on a couple different MPO studies, and you'll also see a LiDAR study next year, which will give us new contour data throughout the city, which will be very helpful for transportation planning as well as our Public Works Department, and also a major street plan analysis and alignment study. Some components of our major street plan have been there since 1999. They may not be very constructible based on new and current data, so we'll be working with a consultant to identify the appropriate alignment for future streets in our major street plan.
And this is a requirement, correct?
This is required as part of our metropolitan planning process, yes.
Thank you for clarifying.
We produce this every year. This year it's a little bigger. Like I said, we have a number of requirements based on the bipartisan infrastructure law.
Mr. Harrington, I believe Mr. Jones has a question or comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Harrington, will that report be done by us, the contour report? LiDAR, right? Is that what it's called?
LiDAR, yes. It's light detection and ranging, similar to radar. We will hire a firm that specializes in that to perform that for us. They will fly an airplane over the city and shoot lasers at the ground and process that data. Recently, most of the time it's gone to Fugro Horizons, which is based here in Rapid City. It is a competitive process. We do a request for proposals process. They usually get it though, because it's hard to beat their pricing and service when they're located right here in our community.
Win-win, local business we're supporting, but also what an amazing thing that we're going to get to have done and how it will impact so many of the projects that we take on. Wow, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harrington. Moving on to number 12, Ms. Schulke, welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item number 12 is seeking approval of the FY23 Community Development Block Grant funding recommendations made by the the Investment Committee. And this program year will start April 1, 2023.
Any questions? Circling back to Director Fisher, any final comments?
She covered it beautifully.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Okay, Lucky 13, City Attorney's Office, Director Landine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would defer to Kinsley Group from my office, who's been working on this.
Welcome, Ms. Groot.
Thank you. Kinsley Grote from the City Attorney's Office. Okay, so this is an assignment agreement for Tax Increment Financing District 86. And it's got the typical language where the positive tax increments will be assigned to Bank West, and there are a couple of representatives from Bank West here, one of their representatives and their attorney, if you have any questions for them. And another important piece is that this actually includes a provision where if the developer defaults on any of the loan documents that they have with the lender, then at that point the bank can actually send notice to the city and assume all rights, duties, and obligations of the developer. So it's just a little bit more comprehensive than the typical assignment agreement.
Do we have any questions for the Bank West representatives or council? Okay, thank you so much. We've reached the end of our consent calendar. I'd welcome a motion. Second, please. Okay, we have a motion to approve items 1 through 13 by Mr. Jones with a second by Mr. Evans. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Moment of personal privilege? Okay, Mr. Jones, go ahead.
Back to the TIF, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Bank West, for doing business with us and the city and the developer. It's great to have the local support like this. You folks are a great local bank. You take good care of your customers, and we thank you for reaching out and doing this project for us and with us. Matters a lot, and so I just wanted to say thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Okay, moving to our non-consent items 14 through 16. Before we do so, we have a public comment period. Do we have anybody wishing to speak? No? Okay, we'll close that. Moving to number 14, second reading and recommendation of ordinance number 6553, an ordinance amending the code to prohibit alcohol sales in medical cannabis establishments and to allow flexibility on the commencement of operations for medical cannabis establishments. We have a motion to approve by Mr. Solomon and a second by Mr. Jones. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, going to number 15 under Community Development. Approve resolution number 2022-081, a resolution to create tax increment financing district, and approve resolution number 2022-082, a resolution to adopt a project plan for property generally described as being located north of Seeger Drive, south of Country Road, west of North Elk Vale Road, and east of Dias Avenue. We have a motion to approve by Mr. Jones, second by Mr. Roseland. Prior to that, let's go to Mr. Solomon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was hoping we could just get a good summary from community development on the project.
Yep. Director Fisher, would you be so kind to indulge?
Yes, bear with me, please. Sarah Hansel will do a much better job, but she's unable to be with us today.
Okay, take your time.
Thank you, Daryl. So if you look at the outline in yellow, as the chairperson described the location, you see that Elkville Road is along the east lot line, Dias Avenue is along the west lot line of the district that is being proposed. This is a two-phased project. The first phase is approximately $3.1 million, and it would be an extension of a sewer main along the west side of Elkville Road to the soccer fields that are currently located within the area that's shown in gray on the overhead. And this is the location of the Dakota Field Soccer Complex. Currently, this facility is operating off of holding tanks for their sanitary needs, and that has become quite an issue because they do have extremely successful tournaments and other events, and so having to dump those and clean those becomes a health issue as well as an inconvenience for those using the facility. Phase 2 is also about $3.1 million, and that would include the extension of a sewer main along what's going to be known as Boomsma Boulevard into a future development of both commercial and residential. It then also has some legs within this that will all be sewer mains, no service lines included in any of this request, and that would be known as Phase 2. The intent is that if the sewer main is brought up along North Elkville Road, it's going to open up development in the area. Now, I must say that this land use plan does not perfectly align with the city's comprehensive plan, but there's flexibility in that plan. And as this developer is addressing some of the floodplain constraints, and he is and has been with FEMA for some time, we do see that there should be some residential components. We'll be sensitive about the buffering between residential and some of the industrial that's directly to the south. But overall, this is a good, well-laid plan. And one of the things that we're most excited about is with this plan, it will also encourage a street extension from Elkville Road, almost getting us over to Dias, and we need another way in and out of this area. Those of you who have driven Elkville Road know that that in and of itself is an issue. So it does meet the requirements of state law as well as the city's TIF policy practices. The value of the property is currently at $17 million. It's anticipated at build-out it'll be about $40 million. The TIF should pay off in about 19 years. The costs that are associated with it are specific to sewer, professional fees, contingency, and finance expenses not to exceed 7%. So what's being asked of you today is to send a recommendation forward to the City Council that would approve the district boundary, as outlined in yellow, as well as the project plan that would be a two-phase project.
Well, I appreciate you giving that summary. I think it's pretty exciting to see what's happening in this area. Obviously, we love the idea that sewer going to the soccer fields. And a few weeks ago, I was able to get out there for a tournament and get a tour, and the expansion plans that they have and the opportunity is incredible. And that's great, but that's really not the primary driver. The primary driver are the new housing developments that we're going to have. We all know that we need more places for people to live and to really expand this out. And so, Vicki, you're saying you're very comfortable with this plan?
Madam Chair, if I might, the second caveat to this is that if this area were to develop without a TIF, the city would be on the hook for some oversight expenditures for utilities. Yeah. And as a part of this TIF, they're going to capture that, and that will save the city about $1 million. So having said that, based on the discussions at both the TIF committee and heavily vetted at Planning Commission, staff is recommending that you acknowledge the recommendation that came out of Planning Commission.
I did see one of the notes in the paperwork was, I think, readjusting the potential, I guess, income that the developer or whomever might receive. I think it was like 45% versus a readjusted income of like 24-25%. Can you talk to me a little bit about that adjustment?
And that has happened. Dane, could you give me that number now?
I can't quote the number.
The 45% was reduced to?
It's in the summary plan here. I probably could pull it up, but
I think it was under 20% that it got reduced to.
Yeah.
But the original pro forma didn't have.
What changed on that?
So the biggest thing was that pro forma it's a projection. It's kind of a shot in the dark because this is a long range plan. The original pro forma had zero land cost because Doyle, who is funding this project, currently owns the land. We didn't include any land costs in that pro forma. We put the land cost in the before the TIF cost and the after TIF cost. That dropped both numbers evenly down, only including the cost of the land because obviously there's value there.
And I liked the pro forma having the without the TIF and with the TIF. That was very helpful to me in evaluating this. Overall, I think this is a good direction for the city. If the city can get a win by covering some of the costs we might have on oversize, while also encouraging good growth and development, that's a good area to grow in. In addition, those soccer fields, we had a stake in that, and I want to make sure that we continue to growth out there because I love the idea of youth being involved in sports rather than getting involved in other things. So. All of that together, I think, really comes out to a good plan. I'm happy to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Solomon. Mr. Jones?
Thank you very much, Chairman. So this concept in front of us here, Councilman Evans has talked about off and on since the time that I've been on the council now in the halfway through my third year, about us taking the lead in putting in sewer and other things and determining where we're going to build rather than being told by developers and others where we're going to build. We're kind of controlling our own destiny a little bit more here by putting this in. It's making it more prime for development, at least in my opinion, in the future, and we're going to be more of a part of the development. And I'm really excited about this, that we're kind of making this paradigm shift in how we're doing business. It's very exciting. It gets us more involved in the process. Director Fisher and her office, tremendous folks, very good at their jobs. So we know that this is going to serve our citizens well. The soccer fields out there are just a jewel, one of our most beautiful facilities in town, and the usage out there is incredible. So this is win-win all the way around. That part of town has been crying out for improvements and development, the road especially. And so I'm really excited to see this and looking forward to how it comes together. It's going to do, in my opinion, nothing but bring great improvements to this area and provide more services and places to live for our current and future residents. So well done. Thank you. There you are. Thank you.
We have a motion on the floor. Motion to approve. All say aye.
Aye.
Any against or opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Good discussion. Moving to item 16, request by Jacob Franz for a determination by the City Council that there are no feasible and prudent alternatives to the proposed project in a historic district located at 1021 Kansas City Street, and that the proposal contains all possible planning to minimize harm to the historic property pursuant to SDCL 1-19A-11.1 and RCMC 17.54.080. Any discussion? Mr. Solomon.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. I see Director Fisher is at the podium, and I think a good summary for the council on this item would be helpful.
So when these come before you, it's typically because a property owner and potentially their contractor were not aware that the property was a contributing structure in our historic district and that it needed a special review by both the state and the city in order to come forward with changing out historic material and design. So that is exactly what happened in this case. This is a contributing structure. They're taking out a wood plank that has a reveal of about 3 to 4 inches, and they're putting in something that is simulated with a reveal of 7 inches, which certainly changes the historic nature and significance of the structure. Let it be known that the State Historic Preservation Office, SHPO, and the Rapid City Historic Preservation Committee would much prefer that this didn't happen. And they do believe it is going to have an adverse impact on our historic district. But the reality is that it's almost completed. The original wood is not recoverable, and it doesn't leave us with a lot of options. Unfortunately, it does send the message, ask for forgiveness instead of permission. But we do try to get ahead of these before they get to this stage. We are just very understaffed in this area. We do informational sessions, we do educational opportunities with the public. At some point, we'll reach out more to the real estate agents in the city so that as they're marketing properties to potential buyers, they're giving them that little brochure. You're in the historic district, you're a contributing structure, go see the city before you do anything. And hopefully someday we'll get closer to that line of instruction and communication.
Thank you. Mr. Roseland has some comments or questions.
Thank you, Vicki. I appreciate you explaining this a little bit to us. I've lived in the West Boulevard area for almost 30 years or more, and been really involved in this preservation aspect of it. And every now and then, one of these projects come up that kind of get behind or through the loop of the loopholes, whatever it is that we don't have, where the realtors they're interested in selling the property rather than letting the people know that it's an historic district. I really feel like the realtors really need to be on top of this and let the people who buy property in that area really know what they have to do to upgrade their homes. And most of those houses in that area of the West Boulevard Historic District are probably in line for upgrading because there have been rentals for many, many years. And I really feel like we should, as a city and as a Historic Preservation Commission and people who live in the area, really keep an eye on what's going on. As we lose one house and then another house and another house, there's a possibility of losing our historic district designation. I don't want to see that happen, because that's one of the most beautiful areas in Rapid City and South Dakota for the most part. It's a nice area to live, so I hate to see this happen. I don't like to see it happen, but it's a done deal, and we have to live with the results of it. But like you said, I really feel like we need to get the realtors more involved in what's going on, and I think the Preservation Commission has been working on this for years, but it's very difficult. I understand that. So again, I appreciate what you are doing, and thank you for the explanation of what we have here.
Madam Chair, if I might, so a lot of these historic structures are truly in disrepair. And that in and of itself has a negative impact on a neighborhood. But there is still historic relevancy in the design of that structure. And we are here so that if someone should come in to get the necessary review, to ensure that we are assisting them wherever we can to find material that would meet with the design standards and secure that look while still stabilizing that structure so we don't end up with a substandard housing unit or sometimes a commercial building. We want to work with them. We don't want to make it more difficult. And we appreciate that we're taking maybe a dilapidated structure and bringing in a reuse to it. But as is important, if not more, is ensuring that that historic significance is preserved.
Thank you very much for your comments. Very good conversation. Anything else? Okay. Moving along, we'll go to our alderman. Go to our alderman items, briefly share our committee assignments and what we've been doing. I'll start with Mr. Jones.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I'm going to take a bold step away from that as I have the microphone and comment about something that has been happening and is a major concern of mine, and I think we all need to take a more active step and be involved. The recently re-elected governor announced at the end of her campaign that she was going to remove the sales tax from groceries at the state level to save all the people of South Dakota money. And now that has come forward as it's going to impact cities as it's being written by the Attorney General.
I am so sorry to interrupt you. I forgot to do a motion on the final item.
Oh, I took a deep breath and everything.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Please forgive me. I'm out of order. Let's do a motion
Buzzkill.
on number 16. I'm so sorry. I welcome a motion on number 16, please.
Move approval.
A motion by Mr. Jones and a second by Mr. Evans. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Jones, back to you. Sorry about the interruption.
Thank you. No problem.
Deep breath.
When this first came forward, if it was going to impact the state by losing the 4% that the state was going to stop collecting, that was a decision that the governor and the legislature was going to have to make, and they would have to work out the details. And at that time, there was discussion in Pierre and other places where it was just going to be a state thing and the cities wouldn't be impacted. The way the new law is being written now by the current Attorney General is that it would not only impact the state, it would impact every city in South Dakota. Sales tax collection is a major part of our revenue, and if we were to lose that, I asked Interim Director Stacy to give me a number, and July 2021 to June 30, 2022, sales tax from food collection for Rapid City was $9.6 million. $9.6 million. Now, I don't know where the state would find their extra money. They say they have surplus, which a government entity having a surplus is kind of a contradiction in terms anyway. But the recklessness of this plan and comment and the impact it would have on our cities in South Dakota is incredible. And the fact that this has moved forward as far as it is blows my mind. And we, as the city of Rapid City, need to take an active role in fighting against this thing, because if in fact it comes forward, how do we replace $9.6 million? User fees, higher taxes, door to door, like we did when I was a band director, bake sales, sell candy bars. Mr. Evans and I have plenty of experience in that. So this is important. We can't afford to lose $9.6 million. Does the state of South Dakota want a state income tax? Glory be. That could be one of the worst things that ever happened to South Dakota, in my opinion. So I'm using this moment, as it is a legal and finance kind of thing, to encourage us to get involved and think about this and what our plan of attack is to protect the city and protect our assets and be concerned about a potential loss of $9.6 million and what it would do to us, because the governor's going to push hard on this. Why the Attorney General has added this caveat to it, I don't know. We need to know, because it's going to impact us hard if it happens. So I hope the Municipal League, South Dakota Municipal League, takes an active role in this. I'm sure they will, and other groups that lobby on our behalf. But this is important. I challenge our legislators that represent this area to get involved in this and make sure that this does not impact us the way the governor and the attorney general are trying to move it forward. Thank you.
Mr. Jones, I would propose maybe having a working session or maybe putting it on as an actual discussion item in a future Legal and Finance meeting. Thank you very much for your passion and statements. Mr. Roseland, would you like to share any committee assignments, reports, please?
Yeah, thank you very much. I was involved in a Zoom meeting interview with David Alder. He's with stewardship in Visit Rapid City Group. I think most of us were involved in that interview, just kind of the future, what we feel like Rapid City should be, using our wisdom, so to speak. November 10th, went to Cervix Center, Veterans Day Salute, which is very exciting. Had a good time there. And then later on in the afternoon, downtown Rapid City had a social in the Hive, introduction to their staff and what they do and to help that program in downtown Rapid City. Very informative. And on the 11th, the Hive Veterans Day program, Honor Guard from Douglas High School presented colors, and Jason Solomon did an excellent speak. I was totally flabbergasted about what and how he spoke at that meeting and opened my eyes to someone great in the room. And I was really impressed with that, Jason. And then the 14th sustainability meeting, which basically is going over how the future will be with a coordinator involved. So it's been a busy week, but it's a very enjoyable week. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roseland. Mr. Solomon, please share.
Thank you. Very quickly, had the opportunity to be a part of a number of Veterans Day events. That was awesome. I won't rehash that. We had a great stewardship workshop for Visit Rapid City. That was in mine, but I think there was another one. There might have been others involved in that. That was great to have community members from all over talk about what we can do to make sure this remains a good place to visit and live. We had an Elevate Rapid City Board meeting today. They're really doing some good things in terms of the companies that are recruiting, in businesses that they're investing in locally, such as Phase Technology, and the number of jobs and the starting wages are pretty impressive. Hope to keep that up as they move forward. Tonight I will have the opportunity, I believe, with Councilwoman Armstrong to attend the L&I reception, and I think that'll be great to welcome them. That's a huge event in December. We certainly want to make sure that we roll out the red carpet, literally and figuratively. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Solomon. Mr. Evans, anything you'd like to share about your committee assignments?
Well, I'll mention one thing. Mr. Solomon covered the Elevate thing, and that was a very, I think, informative meeting this morning. I would like to mention something that was brought up several weeks ago concerning the Beautification Committee, which didn't have a meeting this month, but may involve the whole council in the near future, because it was has been discussed over, frankly, years that a gateway to Rapid City might be appropriate on I-90, and they're getting ready to rebuild the Anamosa Street Bridge over the highway into town. And we would like to be involved in the aesthetic development of that project, and perhaps do something similar to what Sheridan and Thornton, Colorado, and all these other cities are doing with some of their, and city of St. Paul, Minnesota, for that matter, incorporating something as a gateway into the bridge design rather than just another structure, and kill two birds with one stone. And I was happy to see that. I don't know whether it was Mr. Tech or whoever, perhaps Mr. Biegler. He went ahead and did contact the DOT, and they responded, and they're very willing to engage us in working at the German level to start this and get it going, so I won't have something to complain about in a year and a half when the design comes in and none of our ideas are incorporated. So this is a really good thing, I think. So thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. I will share at the Rapid City Public Library, the Bookmobile project is moving along. Unfortunately, we had some additional costs that have come up, but I believe the Rapid City Public Library Foundation will be exploring options to get those additional costs covered. Also, the library will be closed on Black Friday, but will be open the following week, that weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Through my work with the airport board, our leader, Director Patrick Dame, acquired some new service through a new airline carrier, Sun Country. Will be providing round trip facilities, round trip service starting June 2023. Through the Human Relations Commission. I just got back from LA, a delegation from Rapid City, including LaFawn Janice, Amy Sazu, Karen Mortimer, Lloyd LaCroix, and myself. We represented Rapid City, and we were part of a national study with two other cities, Nogales, Arizona, and Charleston, South Carolina, and improving racial relations. I also participated in a civil discourse forum this past Monday with our Rapid City School Board member Bishop Carr, as well as community member Lloyd Big Crow. That was a very interesting conversation. Also, the winter apparel, where you can put different hats and gloves and scarves. I love this part. Started on November 15th and will go until March 15th. I believe it's the 8th year that we have been doing that. And let me see, Bagel in the Street this Friday. It's the Care and Share food drive. We partner with KOTA, and that will be, I believe, from 6:30 to about 8 or 9 this Friday. And Mr. Solomon shared about the LNI. And last but not least, the tree lighting ceremony at Wilson Park, Tuesday at 5 o'clock. That's kind of fun. Come get some cocoa and some cookies. That's all I have to share. We have one final item on number 17, confirm the appointment of Barry Tice to the HRC MOA Commission as the HRC liaison. I am thrilled to see him on this board. Motion to approve by Mr. Solomon, second by Mr. Jones. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Motion to adjourn. Thank you. We will see you on Monday at 6:30 for a city council meeting. Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.